Hello guys, Kaiser here. If you watched my last video, then you know I talked about starting a new series on my channel. This series is called Dumb Theories That Will Never Come True, or DTNCT for short. For those who don't know or are new, let me quickly explain what this series is. This series is about theorizing about the productions and theories that charge the headcanon of shows, movies, games, anything you could think of. Today's first episode will be about a controversial series called Hazbin Hotel. Hazbin Hotel, for its good and extremely bad stuff, has impressive talent behind it. But what if they took this talent inspiration from someone else? That is right. Today's first theory will be, what if Hazbin Hotel plagiarized MLP? Now, you may be thinking, with a title and a claim like that, that this video must be some form of rage bait or clickbait, and to be fair, it kind of is. But I believe I have more than enough evidence to suggest this is true. The first thing we're going to take a look at is the story and themes of both shows. The main story of Hazbin Hotel is that Charlie wants to use the hotel and her kindness to prove to the angels that a sinner can be redeemed. Interesting. Where have I heard this before? Let's recap a bit, shall we? The story of Mlp is that Celestia sends Twilight on a mission to make some friends and use her kindness and the elements to redeem their mood. So far the story is pretty similar, but let's keep going. What are the themes of both shows? How kindness and friendship could prevail over any evil? Even the themes are exactly the same. Now, a similar theme and a similar plot premise are not enough to prove that this is plagiarism. These are not new themes, but we have to take a look deeper. First, we're gonna take a look at the episodes themselves, more specifically the structure and themes of each episode. The episodes of Hazbin Hotel are the most linear examples of plagiarism. Look no further than the first episode. The first episode starts with Charlie narrating a story about her people's extermination. Now, how does the first episode of MLP start? Celestia narrating a story about how Luna became Nightmare Moon. Even the openings are exactly the same, which I find even bizarre considering that the pilot was way better than the current version of the show they went with. The episode structure is even more obvious that they got from something else. The Hazbin Hotel structure goes something like this. The first half introduces a sin or a friendship problem, and then the second half is usually filled with some kind of hijinks. And finally, the end of the episode is the resolution of the problem. Now, what does this remind me of? Yeah, that's right, MLP. The MLP structure is very similar to Hazbin Hotel, but this show came way earlier, so this is a lot more interesting point. The structure of MLP goes something like this: that they introduce a friendship problem in the first half, some kind of wacky hijinks happen in the second half, and then finally in the third act they introduce some kind of moral lesson, exactly like Hazbin Hotel. Well, exactly as Hazbin Hotel. Now the third point I want to talk about is the characters of Hazbin Hotel. Now characters of Hazbin Hotel are usually always one-note boring characters because they all have a singular trait or are trying to be something that they are clearly not. Now I don't have an issue with this, but there's just one real problem. These characters are way too similar to MLP characters for it to actually make any sense. For example, Charlie is clearly a parallel to Twilight. If you take a look at both shows side by side, you can clearly see that Twilight and Charlie are similar characters. Alistair, another fan favorite character from Hazbin Hotel, is extremely similar to a fan favorite character from My Little Pony, that being Discord. Both of them are chaotic demigods that can sometimes be good people and sometimes be evil. But then again, there's one major difference between both of them. One is actually well written and the other one isn't. I think you could guess which one is not the well written one. And hell, you could even argue that some characters in Hazbin Hotel are more like extreme versions of characters that were introduced in MLP. Now, the final point I want to talk about is how many similar ideas there actually are in Hazbin Hotel that are clearly taken from MLP. Now, then again, I'm not saying a hotel that redeems a sinner is something plagiarized from MLP, because it clearly isn't, and I'm not claiming this myself. But what I will say is that some of these ideas are way too similar to stuff that was introduced beforehand. Now, what I can safely assume is that Hazbin Hotel's production started sometime when MLP was still airing. So it will not be shocking to know that most likely took inspiration from something else. I mean, the hotel itself can literally be the school of friendship, something that was introduced in season 8. So that's already the first example, but the angels could be so parallel to Celestia and Luna because both of them have extremely similar characterization, and even heaven itself could be argued to be Cantala, and they even have a similar animation style, except the one big difference with Hazbin Hotel is that the animation style basically tries to be everything while failing at being everything at the exact same time. Now, of course, there's much more evidence I could present that this show is entirely plagiarized, but I'm gonna save that for a future video some other time. Now, with all of this compelling evidence, there's just one question that I gotta answer beforehand before I jump to conclusions and start theorizing. Why does this matter, and why should we care? For one main reason, because Hazbin Hotel was advertised as a fucking adult show. That means that Amazon themselves had a clear vision about what this show was supposed to be. I mean, think about that for a second. Everything else mentioned it as being an adult show. They hired writers who worked on other adult shows in the past to help write for Hazbin Hotel. And Amazon ran an entire media campaign of just voice actors swearing. So they clearly had the clear vision for the show, and yet this show tries to portray itself more like a kid's show rather than an adult show. Now it's theory time. Now, why do I think this? Why do I think that the Hazbin Hotel is trying to portray itself more like a kid's show rather than an adult show? Sadly, we might not have the answers, but what I do have are 3 potential theories to explain this kind of dilemma. The first theory, which is very unlikely, is that this is something that every single writer agreed upon. Now, this is very unlikely for multiple reasons. For one, that this show clearly features themes that will not be featured in other adult shows, or the fact that they had writers who worked on very different adult shows compared to Hazbin Hotel, so that is very unlikely. Second, which is much more plausible, is that this was a forced Amazon change. While definitely a lot more plausible, this relies a lot more on ifs. Now, we might never know what happened behind the scenes between the production of the show and Amazon themselves. This was either most likely an Amazon forced change or something else. We might never know. And the third, the most likely theory, is that the writers had no creative control when writing on this show. Now, this makes sense for a lot of reasons. This makes complete sense because when you watch the show, you might not even be aware that there were other writers on it because nothing is really meshed with their style. Nothing really makes sense, and they don't even have similar themes that the other previous adult shows they worked on did. Now, what I believe is that Charlie, aka Vivziepop, had all the creative control, and so she just began writing her entire show without letting the other writers contribute. The most likely contributions that they did make was small things like background references or some jokes. Besides that, that is it. Now, we might never know what happened behind the scenes at production of Hazbin Hotel, but what I can tell you this, with this theory and this amount of evidence combined, this show will start making you think differently of Hazbin Hotel. That is going to be it for today's video. If you guys did enjoy this type of video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to this video if you did enjoy it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye, everyone!